I would just say, look, Trump is the general of the Republican Party, and Republican primary voters are, in fact, his soldiers. And you can see it in the Texas polling, his impact of an endorsement. Now, this is, of course, before, of course, the endorsement came down. But look at this. 55% of Texas Republicans said they would be more likely to vote for the candidate that he endorsed versus just 36% who said no impact. Just 9% said that they'd be less likely to vote for the candidate they endorsed. The bottom line is this. What Donald Trump wants, he almost always gets in Republican primaries, because when you see numbers like this, 55% of Republicans in Texas say they're going to be more likely to vote for whoever he endorses, and that, of course, being Ken Paxton. It's no wonder the president's so confident.
Well, we're seeing this over and over and over again in primaries, even though people look and go, well, his approval ratings, it doesn't matter to those who are the core voters, who are MAGA all the way. You're seeing it play out again and again. Where do the prediction markets put the Texas Senate runoff post-Trump endorsement?
Yeah, you see this 55% right there, and then it is no wonder in the Kalshi prediction market. I mean, you could just see the movement towards Ken Paxton. Look at this. On Monday, he had a 66% chance of winning. Up like a rocket, right? Up like a rocket. 95%. Houston, if you are, in fact, John Cornyn, you have a big problem. But if you're Ken Paxton, you have a big-time solution. 2 thumbs up, as the president likes to say. Right now, the Kalshi prediction market giving 2 thumbs up to the idea that Ken Paxton is, in fact, going to be the Republican nominee.
The prediction markets have to be looking at what just happened in Kentucky and elsewhere. Give us some sense of, hey, they look at this, they're like, okay.
Yeah, this has been one of the best weeks for Donald Trump when it comes to endorsements. You saw it in Kentucky on Tuesday. I mean, just look at this. Look at this. Massey's Kentucky for GOP primary performances. In 2022, he got 75%. In 2024, he got 76%. In 2026, look at this, just 45%. The big difference was that Donald Trump came in, campaigned very vigorously against Thomas Massie. And when you go against President Trump, as I like to say, quoting the great film Good Burger, you go on the grinder. And that's exactly what happened to Thomas Massie, because Donald Trump is just a figure you don't want to mess with in Republican primaries.
It was not a good burger for Massie.
No, it was a very bad burger.
Yes. Louisiana, are we seeing Trump's dominance there as well?
Yeah, I mean, look, this was a rare burger for Thomas Massie, and it was an extra rare burger, of course, for Bill Cassidy. I mean, this is why I say it was just such a great week for Donald Trump. Just look at this. I mean, we've spoken about this before. I asked our viewers, could you find any performance that was worse for a sitting incumbent senator who was not appointed? No, Bill Cassidy's 25% was the worst ever primary performance for an incumbent senator. My goodness gracious, all because they went against Donald John Trump. Just 25% of the worst. 25% of the vote, the worst since at least the end of World War II.
Why are some Republicans concerned about Attorney General Ken Paxton if he is the Republican nominee?
It's simply put, they're looking at the numbers. They are looking at the numbers, and the idea that Democrats can't win in Texas, I want to put that to rest. They could very well do it. James Tallarico could very well win in Texas, and I want to use a comparison point with 2018, because there was all this talk about Beto O'Rourke, right? Oh, could he beat Ted Cruz? He could beat Ted Cruz. The numbers at this point in that campaign, simply put, did not support that conclusion. But the numbers at this point absolutely support the conclusion that James Tallarico can win. So take a look. Texas Senate polls in May of the election year. When you matched up Beto O'Rourke versus Ted Cruz was up by 7 points. He was clearly ahead. But look at the polling average now when you max up Ken Paxton versus James Tallarico. It's actually Tallarico that's ahead by 4 points. And Johnny B., I was looking back at every single Texas Senate race that I could find, and at this point in the campaign, James Tallarico is polling better than any Democrat in at least 24 years. You have to go all the way back to 2002 to find a Democrat even polling anywhere close to where Tallarico is polling right now. Texas, Democrats have dreamt about turning it blue. This time, the numbers actually support the idea that they may actually be able to do it.
I have to say, this is a difference that I have not seen before and I was not aware of. And a lot of people are making the comparison to 2018. One of the reasons is that Ken Paxton, if he's the nominee, not a super popular nominee. And people are like, oh, well, Ted Cruz as an incumbent senator, he wasn't that popular either. So what's the difference between Cruz and Ken Paxton?
Yeah, the idea that Ted Cruz was not that popular, that's a falsehood. That is simply put a falsehood. You go back. Again, just look at these differences right here. Okay, Texas GOP candidate net favorability. Ted Cruz's net favorability was actually plus 7 points in my average polls. Look where Ken Paxton is. The complete inverse of that. He's 7 points underwater. So look, again, you just look at the numbers. In 2018, Democrats had this dream of turning Texas blue. The numbers didn't support it in large part because Ted Cruz was actually decently popular. But Ken Paxton is anything but. In poll after poll after poll, he is underwater. No wonder Republican senators are running scared, especially after that Trump endorsement of Paxton yesterday.
How's the president doing in Texas?
Okay, that's the other part of this equation, right? All politics at this point funnel down from up top and then drop down to the state level. And you can just see it right here. Okay, back in May 2018, Trump's net popularity in Texas, he was at plus 4 points. He was above Wood. Again, we're looking at the inverse of that. Trump is considerably less popular in Texas, which of course matches what we're seeing nationally, which is that Donald Trump is less popular now than he was at this point in term one. You put it all together. You look at the general election polls. You look at the popularity of the potential Republican candidates that'll be running for Texas Senate. You look at Donald Trump's popularity as well, and you go, okay, Texas is absolutely in play. Does that mean that Democrats will finally win their first Senate race since 1988 in Lloyd Bentsen? I'm not saying that, but it is a real possibility.
What you are saying is 2026 is different than 2018.
It is different than every campaign that I have been around for. What about those who didn't cast a ballot at all in 2024? Those who didn't show up to vote? Well, they have become absolutely perturbed. I dare say they are pissed off at the President of the United States. Voters who didn't cast a ballot in 2024. Trump's net approval rating. Back in November of 2024, just after the election, look at his net approval rating. It was plus 4 points for his plans in office. But look at that. It is fallen. Yeah. Whoo! There you go, Sarah Seidner. That's the only sound you can make. It has fallen through the floor. Look at this. Minus 50 points on Trump's net approval rating among voters who did not, in fact, cast a ballot in 2024. That is, you don't have to be a mathematical genius, an over 50-point move against the President of the United States among those who are kind of like, meh, in terms of voting in 2024. But now they are pissed off.
Well, and that's the thing. The turnout can have a huge
Yes.
impact on who wins a race. Give us some sense of why people are in this position, and I can kind of guess, but I'll let you tell us. Tell us the numbers.
I'll tell you the numbers. I mean, look, anyone who's been following these segments, anyone who knows anything about American politics knows it's the economy. It is the economy smarty pants in terms of Sarah Seidner. And you can just see it here. I mean, view of Trump in the economy, again, among voters who did not cast a vote in 2024. In November of 2024, 60% were confident in Trump to make good decisions when it came to the economy. But again, this number has just absolutely plummeted. Look at his approval rating now on the economy among those who didn't cast a ballot in 2024. It's 19%. It's only a third of those who were confident back in November of 2024. Again, we're just talking about numbers that are falling through the basement. If you hire the carpenters who built Donald Trump's floor in this, you shouldn't have.
So Trump isn't actually on the ballot technically, but Republicans certainly are. Is this going to have an impact, you think, on them?
Yes, absolutely. This is the key question because it's not just about persuasion. It's about turnout, baby. It's about turnout. And these folks are not just pissed off and want to vote Democratic. A lot of them are actually very likely to vote. Okay, voters who didn't cast a ballot in 2024, their 2026 choice for the House. Look at this. Democrats are winning amongst them by 31 points, and 48% of them are either very likely or almost certain to vote in the midterm elections. So this is a group I'd really be paying a lot of attention on because the reason why Democrats are doing so well on the generic ballot is in large part among those who stayed home in 2024. Many of them will vote in 2026, and they won't be voting Republican. They'll be voting Democratic because truth is, they're just pissed off at the President of the United States. This is one of the big chief worries right now. If you're a student entering this job market, just look at this trend line. Undergrads who say finding a job will be hard. You go back 4 years ago, it was just 43%. Unfortunately, that's up like a rocket right now. Look at the 70% of undergrads say that finding a job will, in fact, be difficult. No wonder that we have seen across those commencements a lot of worried students, Sarah Seidner.
Yeah, the anxiety is real. I mean, me looking at that, I'm getting anxious and I'm not in school. This is a real concern for students who are graduating. Young people really don't seem to like commencement speakers when it comes to AI. This tells you why, correct?
This tells you a big reason why. And in fact, you can see it in the numbers, right? I mean, just take a look at those under the age of 30, among age 18 to 29, impact of AI in the number of jobs. Just 27% believe that AI will increase the number of jobs. Look at this number. 73%. 73% say, in fact, they believe that AI will decrease will decrease the number of jobs. This 73% looks an awful bit like this 70% on this side of on this screen, right? So what you're seeing here is a lot of students are worried about the job market, and what you can connect the dots, which is what I like to do. A big reason why they are worried is because they believe that AI will in fact decrease the number of jobs, and that is why you see those undergraduates really not liking those commencement speakers speaking about AI, because they're worried for their livelihoods.
Yeah, and it's not just decreasing the number of jobs, that's one thing, but well-paying
Correct,
jobs.
the quality jobs, Sarah.
So let me ask you about the overarching. How do Americans in general, not just the young, not just the graduates, feel about AI?
Yeah, this is one of those things where you get the real rare time in which Americans are really connecting on this issue from the left to the right. I mean, say I will make it harder to get a good job. You see, among all adults, it's 63%. On the left side, you get 68%. In the middle, 68%. And even on the right, you get the rare trifecta, the left, right, and middle. The majority all agree that getting a good job will, in fact, become harder because of AI. And of course, the students are the ones who don't currently have the jobs, and that is why there's all that apprehension right now.
So this is how they feel, but are they right when you look at the numbers of layoffs, for example, that companies have blamed on AI?
Yeah, okay. So, you can take a look at the Kalshi prediction market, and what is the chance that 2026 tech layoffs will exceed 2025, i.e. more than 447,000? You can see that it is a very clear. We are approaching percentages, probabilities that we very rarely ever get. And so to me, this is part of the picture where you got a lot of the fear, and the fear in this case is backed up by the numbers, at least initially. Of course, we're going to have to wait and see as we go down the road with AI. A lot of the proponents of it believe that it will, in fact, create more quality jobs, up the number of jobs, just different types of jobs. But at least in the immediacy, when it comes to tech layoffs, it looks like those are going to be higher than they were a year ago, at least for the people who are putting their money where their mouths are.
Yeah, we're seeing companies dump large amounts of money into AI. That does not necessarily equate to more jobs or the jobs that they need.
Correct.
Thank you so much, Harry Enten. It is a pleasure to see you, darling.
Happy Memorial Day weekend.
To you too. We'll